One of the biggest questions that I get asked is how to update a Synchro schedule. So there are many different ways, and I will be making a series of videos to show some of these different ways. First, I want to talk about the concept. Now, I went over this in another video, but if we go to modify our data date and say that we pick the date of Monday, February 25th, and I hit reschedule, the whole schedule is going to snap forward to that date on the 25th. And now, updating a schedule takes advantage of this data date concept. The key is that so let's say we created the schedule on February 25th, and now it is going to be March 6th, so we are going to be updating our schedule, and hopefully everything is going on as planned. So we can see here that the data date is wrapping all of these tasks that should have started. The data date pulls ahead and says, I'm good, I'm in the blue, I'm in the blue. Oh, task 8. Should have started task 8. Actually, and we can look and see that we should have actually finished task 8. Synchro does now provide a way to automatically assign progress, but really it's a best practice to update the status of each task individually. So for instance, we look at task 1. I'm going to click on task 1 first, and then I'm going to open up my task properties by going up here to this button, the red button, opening up task properties, or doing control right bracket, and that's actually what I did. So if we click on task 1, we can go to the drop down menu for status and check finished. So once we check finished, we get this dialog box that pops up and says, okay, give me the start time. Because we're going from a planned task to a finished task, we first have to update what was the actual start date. So choose the task 1 start time. If it happened on its planned start, that's very easy. We just put the radio button for planned start. And whatever date is up here in this grayed out box is what's going to be going in for the actual start. If I checked data date, notice how this changes to March 6th. Because in our example, our data date, as we see here, is March 6th. So I'm going to go back to planned start, because hopefully that's when things happen. The start time was on its planned start. We hit OK, and I'm going to say, and it finished on its estimated finish date. We typically want to do the estimated finish versus the planned or predicted. So by default, let's just leave it as estimated finish. So once I do that, notice that the status turns blue, and that color is based on the color modification that is in another video. And then you'll see here that in the start and finish column, you get a little A after the number. I'm going to do another updating video that goes through some updating with advanced columns, and that's actually what I recommend. But this is the basic concept. So it's typically easiest if we're updating our finished tasks, because that is just a matter of saying when something actually started and when it actually finished, right? The difficulty comes in when we are looking at started tasks, because started tasks, we need to make some assumptions and estimations about when that task is going to be finished. So we are making a prediction into the future, and this is where the difficulty in scheduling comes in. So I'll do a few different cases. So I'm first going to click on task 2, and again I can go over to the task properties and change this to started, but I can also click on the button that I created in my custom toolbar for start task. And obviously all this makes a lot more sense on your project, because you know what the tasks are and you're not just using generic names. So if I'm going to say that it started on its planned start of March 4th and it is now March 6th, it's saying that we still have 3 days remaining. We have the 6th, we have the 7th, and the 8th. So that's where the 3 days come in. And so nice and easy, it would just be straight like that. Now, however, very seldom is everything going directly as planned. So I'm going to hit the undo button. What I can also do is change this back to planned. And it gives me an error message. And I'm going to hit start task again. And let's say that instead of starting on the 4th, when we wanted it to start, we're actually going to choose a different date. So if I go from plan start up into choose date, now this box goes from grayed out to I can click in it. If I click on the day, and I'm going to say, actually that task started 1 day late. So notice that when I was on the 4th, there was a 3-day remaining duration. When I was on the 5th, there was a 4-day remaining duration. Synchro makes the assumption for us. It said, well, you originally said that this duration was going to be 5 days. Now, is that correct or is that incorrect? That's up to you to decide. I'm just saying this is the default out of the box. Is if it starts a day late, the estimation is that it's going to finish a day late. So if I hit OK, notice that as we zoom in on this green bar, which is the planned date, that it started a day after, and it actually pushed into next Monday as the finish. So if I was to hit reschedule right now, which I will do here in a sec, task 3 would now be pushed out until after. It's going to maintain the logic and said, well, you told me that you're thinking task 2 is going to finish on the 13th. That's going to have to be my best guess as well. Or it's going to finish on the 11th, so I'm going to start task 3 on the 12th. And that's the expected behavior that we get. I'm going to undo this though, because we don't ever want to hit reschedule until we're done scheduling restatusing our entire schedule. Otherwise, we get this situation down here where you're supposed to actually status task 8 and task 12 as well. And so I'm going to go back just to show another example of if I take task 1 and I change it back to planned, say now we're going to go back to its original dates, and I select task 1 and I hold control and click on task 8. That selects both of these tasks that are finished. So now I can change both of their status to finished, or click this finish tasks button and say, yep, they started on their planned start and they finished on their planned finish. And if you check that box for apply to all, it's going to apply that planned start and planned finish to everything. Now, again, we can't always do that. We can only do that if things are actually happening if it's close enough, or if that is when they actually finished, is when we can do that apply to all. And that's going to make our lives a lot faster, but fast isn't always better if it's not accurate. Okay, so the next little portion that I'm going to go into is another method of modifying and updating a schedule, and that is by using additional columns and modifying your layout. In order to add new columns to your schedule, we right click at the top, and we're going to go right click at the column header name, and we're going to go to customize columns. And here we have a list of all our available columns. And in order to do this, I am going to say actual start and remaining duration, and I hit the single arrow over. I don't hit the double arrow. That brings all of the columns from this side over to the other side. So I hit the single arrow for remaining duration. I'm going to add estimated finish and actual finish. And then we hit OK. And I'm going to need to close my navigator down. I'm just going to unpin it. And when I unpin my navigator, it's going to come right over to this side. I'm doing this so that I have a little bit more screen real estate since I'm working in a lower resolution for these training videos. Okay. So, you'll notice that for all of these other tasks, this task 3, task 4, all of these tasks that are still in their planned stage, the actual start is blank, estimated finish, actual finish is blank, and the remaining duration is grayed out. I can't change any of those things. Now, for this task 2, I can go back and change it. So there's many different ways that I can kind of do a quick and dirty pass and then go back and tweak things after the fact. So for instance, on this task 2, if instead I see the estimated finish should be the 12th, I can say, well, this remaining duration should actually be 5 days. And then this estimated finish is going to be the 12th, and task 3 will now push out to the 13th. If I had put 6 days, that pushes out even farther. I understand that. If I can also, so by default, the estimated finish is set to calculate based on remaining duration. Now, however, if I click in here and say I'm not going to finish on March 14th, I'm going to actually finish on the 11th, Synchro will manually lock in that estimated finish date. And then if I hit reschedule, everything will get pulled back in and go to the 12th. So these columns have been added in version 4.6. It's one of the things I've really been looking for is a better updating process, and I think this is finally getting us to the point where Synchro is a very solid updating tool. I'm actually not sure how this works, but if I wanted to change my start date back to the 4th, that actually did pull the full duration forward. So, you know, it's good to hit your actual start date first based on your started date, but then you can modify that remaining duration estimated finish pretty easily. So in the same way, I can modify my task 8 start and finish dates. If I double click in here and said I actually started this on the 26th and I actually started this on the 1st, we'll notice that even though task 12 could be pulled forward, it's not going to because the data date is pushing it ahead. So the final part of this video is I want to talk about using layouts to make this faster. So oftentimes when we're working in a schedule, we don't necessarily want to see actual start, remaining duration, all these columns. We just want to see our name, duration, start, finish. Most of our subcontractors and owners don't necessarily care about each of these columns. They care about what's my finish date going to be. And you'll notice that Synchro is intelligent about this. Is that this start date is based on the early start. This is the early finish for that task, and so once I've started a task, it goes to the actual start gets put in this column, and the estimated finish goes in the finish date. And for a finish task, the actual finish is going to get put in here. So this is actually a feature that was in P6 that Synchro kind of modeled itself after, so that we don't need to have all of these columns. We can just have the one column and go along that direction. And I think actually SureTrack might have had it as well for actuals, displaying the A. So to get to our layouts, we right click up on our column header, and I'm going to save this layout as, and I'm going to save it as my updating layout. If I hit OK, I'm going to go back to customize columns, and I'm going to get rid of all of those extra fields, and I'm going to call this my a printing layout. So if I had special columns, I could say many printing layouts. So once I have those, I can say open my layout, and I want to go back to my updating layout. You'll notice that I get all of my columns back, and then go back to my original printing layout, and all those columns go away. So once I get this set up, and if I have it in a template, I can do this very quickly. So that concludes my take 1 on the updating Synchro video. I'm sure there's some questions out there still, and if you have them, please feel free to send them my way, and I can go back and make some additions or recreate this video if I don't get very good feedback for it. So thanks for watching, and good luck out there.